Good morning and welcome to Moments with Melinda. I am your host, Melinda Moulton, and today I have with me Skylar Sky Barsch. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Melinda. How are you?
Everybody calls you Sky, so that's what I'm going to call you. Um, so let me tell my viewers a little bit about you, Sky. Sky is the Chief Executive Officer of Vermont Digger and has an extensive career in local and national media, which we're going to get into in depth in this interview. So let's start at the beginning, Sky. Talk to us a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up and who was your greatest inspiration?
Oh, good question. So I grew up in Meriden, Connecticut, which is in central Connecticut, and my dad was a water treatment plant operator and a veteran, and my mom was a certified occupational therapy assistant. I have two brothers, Mike and Shane, and my one brother, Shane, he has pretty severe cerebral palsy, and I have to say he is my biggest inspiration because he is just the most resilient and positive and funny and compassionate person that I know.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So would you say that he's your inspiration?
Yeah, he is my inspiration. I outside of journalism, I like to be active and explore the world. And I think he's really taught me to never take those opportunities for granted because, he can't do a lot of that stuff as easily as I can. So I really try to, um, he's really inspired me to appreciate every moment and every opportunity and take advantage of every time a door opens, to say yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I hope someday I could meet him.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. He would love to meet you.
So Sky, what brought you to Vermont?
I came to Vermont through Castleton State College. And so I spent my first year of college at Central Connecticut State University. I was somebody who wasn't really entirely sure if I was going to go to college, if that was my career path. And I found this program through the New England Board of Higher Education I don't know if it still exists, but at that time, it was something to the effect of the various state schools within New England had a reciprocal program where for certain majors you could attend for 150% of in-state tuition. So for being from Connecticut to go to Castleton, communication was one of the majors. And I just sort of thought, okay, this is an more affordable way to get to Vermont, which I had visited and fallen in love with. And that was sort of like the first part of the plan, like get to Vermont. And that's how I was able to do it.
Well, you sure got to Vermont and you landed and I mean, you've made such a great difference in so many people's lives through your journalism. Um, so what inspired you to become a journalist? What was the impetus?
That was sort of something I fell into. I always loved to write. I wasn't one of those people who just like knew they were going to be a journalist. Like I really initially saw journalism as a way to make a living writing. And I started freelancing for the Times Argus after college, and the editor at the time reached out and said they had a reporter position opening. Would I be interested? And it was one of those times I said yes, and learned a lot through that first experience.
So Sky, where do you see the future of journalism in a country under this new anti-press administration?
I am very I'm optimistic and I'm concerned at the same time. I'm optimistic because um I think that as an industry for a long time, we were very mired in tradition, and that served certain people for a long time. When we saw the disruption of what happened when the internet came about and advertising on the internet disrupted the advertising model for newspapers, it was it was really hard and painful and continues to be. But I think the upside is we have seen what happens when journalism, independent journalism, local journalism goes away. It's really bad for communities being able to see themselves reflected accurately. It's really bad for our ability to participate in democracy. It's really we lose a fabric, a weave that connects our communities. And I am hearing people talk about journalism in a way that I've never heard before, and how important it is and what a public service it is. So I'm concerned for the short term, but I'm hopeful for the long term.
So many local newspapers are going under. I don't know what the number is, but I attended that fabulous event that you had at Hula a while back and learned a lot about local journalism, but a lot of local papers are going under.
Yeah, the University of Vermont just released a study that 75% of newspaper jobs have been eliminated in the past 25 years in Vermont. And that tracks with national numbers. Um, for a long time, newspapers could sell their subscriptions at a rate that was subsidized by advertising because they had such a big audience. Advertisers wanted that audience,
Right.
and they funded the journalism, and that has changed. And good journalism is expensive to produce. For our reporters to write the stories that they write, it takes days, sometimes weeks, and it takes public records requests, and sometimes it requires legal work. It takes running our website, which is not as expensive as print, but still has a lot of costs around it, around security and just making sure that it's functioning, and the team that it takes to make sure that everything's working properly. So
So
it's a hard business.
it is. So Sky, to my viewers, what can citizens do to help support local journalism? What can we do?
Ah, there's a couple things. The biggest thing is to fund the journalism outlets that you rely on in a meaningful way, and that's different for everybody. It could be $1 a week. It could be some of our readers are able to give 5 figures a year. So that is it. It sounds crass sometimes asking for money, but it's just math. It just takes funding to pay for what we produce. And so that's the biggest thing. The other piece is being informed about where you're getting your news. So, when somebody sends you something on social media, to go to the website and to click on the about link and see, what is this organization that's putting out content? Are there real people behind it? Is it a reputable news organization? Or is it, something more nefarious? So taking the time to be educated about where we're getting our news, especially before you share something,
Mhm.
that is critical, is to make sure that what we're all sharing, and we're all busy, so I know it's hard, but to make sure that it's really a valid source of a news organization that has ethics and policies around how they do their news gathering and writing.
What a good point. What a great point, Sky. So talk to us about your work at Chalk Beat. It's one of the largest nonprofit news organizations in the US. Talk to us about your time there.
So my time at Chalkbeat was really incredible. I joined in 2019, and we all know what happened shortly thereafter. I've always worked, for the most part, mostly in independent journalism. This was my first time really diving into nonprofit journalism, and the co-founder of Chalkbeat, Elizabeth Green, who is also the co-founder of the American Journalism Project, is just one of the most brilliant minds thinking about public service and civic journalism and the nonprofit model. So it was really cool. I was the only person from Vermont on that team. I got to work with people all across the country in these really interesting communities in Memphis, Tennessee, in Newark, New Jersey, in Denver, Colorado. And Chalkbeat's work focuses on public education. And the idea was that in communities where, especially where there's economic inequities, not only have the newspapers gone away, but one of the first things to go away was sort of the civic journalism covering school boards. And when you don't have somebody who's reporting on the school boards or what's happening with public education policy, you know, squirrely things can happen. So Elizabeth's idea was to, instead of, she knew some of these markets were never going to be advertising supported journalism. So to reach out to the philanthropic community to say, "Now, these communities deserve to have somebody paying attention to what's happening to their kids and their education and to make sure that families and teachers had choices." Um, so I learned so much. It was such a dedicated group of people, and it was a very tech forward company. There are a lot of folks who came from tech, so they had great ideas about our products. So that meaning our website or our newsletters and community engagement and really this idea of reporting in and not just on communities that it's really important that it was locally based reporting and not just, parachuting in for the big story because that really matters.
No kidding, it really does. Is Chalkbeat still around?
Yeah.
All
So
right, so
chalk,
what's
yeah.
the website?
It's chalkbeat.org. And they have launched a parent organization called Civic News Company, and they launched VoteBeat, which does the same thing, but for voting access and elections. Not, horse race politics, but more like the infrastructure around voting and voting laws and redistricting. And then they also just launched HealthBeat, which is public health in the same vein.
Fantastic. Well, that's chalk as in CHALKBEAT. So for my viewers, check that out. Now you also work, Sky, you also work for Vermont Life as an associate publisher. And I love Vermont Life. I'm so glad that you were there, but it was discontinued.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think, yeah. So that's really sad that it's no longer around, but
That was heartbreaking,
yeah.
and I still, I wish it weren't the case. It was such a beautiful magazine, a beautiful representation of the state. When you'd go all over the country and people would have it on their, coffee tables, and it was such a valuable, not only marketing tool for the state, but a way for our state to see itself reflected. Um,
And
yeah,
to know people, I mean, to connect with people, say, oh my God. So I wanted to mention that you were involved in Vermont Life. You also own, edit, and publish Vermont Sports. Talk to us about that magazine and how you got into that and how my viewers can view Vermont Sports.
Sure. So Vermont Sports, I was freelancing for that publication, and it was 2000, I want to say 10, when I purchased Vermont Sports from the previous owner. And I ran it for 3 years, and then I sold it to Angelo and Lisa Lynn, who run the Addison Independent, so it couldn't be in better hands. That was my first foray into the business side of publishing. I had been a newspaper reporter at the Argus and Times Argus and Burlington Free Press. Um, and I have a real passion for outdoor recreation, and I especially about making it accessible and inviting more people in to participate in outdoor recreation and outdoor sports. Um, and that was also very, very fun. And yeah.
So my viewers, so tell me where they can find Vermont Sports.
So you can find the printed version at most, ski and bike shops, pubs, grocery stores, and the website is vtsports.com.
vtsports.com. Okay, well let's check that out. Now, I swear, I mean your career, your life has been so intense and fabulous. So you were also named Vermont Press Association's Rookie of the Year back when you worked for the Burlington Free Press and the Times Argus.
A long, long time ago.
That's quite an accolade.
It was a big honor. It was a big honor. Yeah. I was
Well,
really
and well
appreciative
and
for
well
that.
and well deserved. And you also speak Italian. Talk to us about that.
So I would say intermediate Italian. I just absolutely love the language. I took it in high school, and then I've been taking online lessons. I just spent 2 weeks in Sicily, and it was a blast to be able to converse. For the most part, there's a lot of learning I have to do, but I just love the way that language connects us, and to think about the way that different phrases are conveyed in different languages. I find really fascinating how various languages have a word for a feeling that another language might not. And yeah,
Good for you. Good for you.
thank
Someday
you.
we'll go to lunch and you can order my food in a town. I would love that. So you are also a board member of the Montpelier Area Mountain Bike Association. You've been for quite a few years. And the mountain bike experience here in Vermont has exploded. Talk to us a little bit about that movement.
Yeah, so I'm not on that board anymore. That was another just like I loved being on that board. Um I absolutely love to mountain bike, and when I started there were not a lot of women who were mountain biking, and there were certainly not a lot of women on mountain biking boards. That has really changed. Now when I go out and ride, often see more women than men, and I um yeah, that's something that we're so fortunate in Vermont that a lot of our trails are free to access, that people not only make their land available for free for folks to ride, that all these volunteers serve on these boards. Um, and that was another area where I just really wanted to focus on inclusivity, like, kind of before you could find trails on the internet, you really just had to know somebody who knew where to ride, and um, it was hard to break in at that time, and I didn't like how that felt. So I had a goal of working to make the trails, better signage, and easier to find maps, so everybody felt like they could access the trails.
And so how do people get involved with the association? How do they get, what's the website for that?
So
The,
that I think it's Montpelier. I'd have to look. I know
well,
that you can find it through VIMBA,
okay,
Vermont Mountain Bike Association.
and people can just, so the Vermont Mountain Bike Association, but yeah, so folks should go to that, just Google that in and you can learn more about that. And I'm sure there's tons of information online
Yeah.
about different bike trails. You are dedicated to promoting social justice and enhancing democratic participation. So what are your words of wisdom for our viewers as we enter this new world in our governance? And so many of us are so deeply concerned about social justice and people being disenfranchised, and also our democracy. What's your words of wisdom?
I think to keep at it. Like, we are a nation in progress, and we're still relatively young. And if you believe in something, your voice matters. And um, the the beautiful thing about a democracy is ideally each of us has, an opportunity to be heard, and that doesn't always play out exactly, perfectly. But I think the more we work at it, and the more we try, and the more we say it's important, the more we talk about our democratic ideals as being important, our First Amendment rights as being important, um, that we those are the norms that I think are important to most Americans. And I think the more we verbalize and keep those at the forefront, the less likely they could go away.
Did you think we should return to the days when civics is taught in school?
Absolutely.
And to my viewers, let me remind the ones that are too young probably to know what even civics is. When I was growing up, I had civics. It was a course I had to take. I think I had to take it in all 4 years. And it was where you discussed the governance of this country and of your
Yeah.
state, and you learned how it ran, and it was a really important course. So what do you think about that? I mean, how do we get that back into the schools?
Yeah, I think governments is so complex, and we try to do some of that work through, for instance, our voting guide that we did this year. Um, we offered statewide and House and Senate candidates the opportunity to answer questions, so they'd have a profile on our site. We did some how-tos, how to vote, what to do with your ballot. We translated some of those resources into 14 languages, the 14 most commonly spoken languages outside of English in Vermont, as well as an American Sign Language translation video. Um, but for in schools, I think that there are some schools that have civics, but it's it's too critical to not offer. I mean, there's
Kids need to know what kind of government they're living in. And there's a majority of kids in the country who don't even know who the vice president is. But so you say we, and when you talk about we, let me get to the big kahuna here. Let's move on to Vermont Digger, because that's the we when you talk about we, because you are the chief executive officer, and you've been the new chief executive officer for the past 20 months, I believe. So talk to us about Digger and your plans for what I consider one of Vermont's premier news sources.
Well, thank you. It is the honor of a lifetime to have this role at Digger. It just, I love Vermont so much, and I believe so passionately in journalism. I believe in the nonprofit model. It was sort of all the things coming together. Digger is just our team. They are so smart and so dedicated, and so passionate about our work. I look at Digger as it- uh, civic journalism being really important, like we're talking about, how to participate in our democracy and beyond. How do we grapple with the big questions about who we are as a state? How do we talk about our future? How do we have a forum where um, our journalists are spending their days, sorting through claims and kind of noise and rhetoric to get to the essence of what is really true? How do we foster sort of calm civic conversations about our future? And so it's important to me that we have our robust commentary section where our readers can write in with their viewpoints. That's something I would like to grow and expand. Um, it's really important to me that we're covering the biggest issues of the day, which, right now, housing is such a big issue, our climate. Um, affordability is on everybody's minds. Um, so, uh, so that's sort of the essence of what we cover. Really important to me is also that Digger is available for free to all of our readers. So I know I just made a pitch for support, but that is what allows everybody to access the information they need to make informed decisions about their lives, regardless of whether they can afford a subscription or not. Um, and I see a really bright future for Digger. There's so many things we want to do. If we were to, as we grow our funding base, I would love to add, for instance, a outdoor recreation and culture and arts reporter. There's a lot of things we would love to do in the future, and we've been doing some good thinking about that.
And it all comes down, and a lot of it comes down to money. But to my viewers out there who are not aware of Vermont Digger, the website is VTDigger, DIGGER.org. And I suggest that you go online and get involved with Vermont Digger, and if possible, to become a donor, and certainly to become a subscriber. I am a commentary, and I'm so honored that, Sky, that you allow me to espouse my beliefs and my thoughts at Vermont Digger. But I got to tell you, it's a rigorous review, and everything is spot checked. And that's what I love about Digger is it's all about truth, and I honor you in that. So let's talk for a second about what are the hardships for local news. I mean, it's money, and
Mhm.
it's participation. How many members do you have? How many subscribers do you have?
We have 9,000.
Wow.
Which is really incredible.
That
I
is
think
incredible.
that says something about Vermont. We, on a per capita basis, we have one of the strongest membership, if not the strongest membership programs in the country. Texas Tribune, which is one of our esteemed peers, I think they have 11,000 or 12,000 members, which is fantastic too. But you look at the size of Texas and you look at the size of Vermont, and I'm really proud of our membership team for all their hard work.
Well, hopefully we can help increase that. So it's vtdigger.org. Everyone sign up, become a subscriber, get involved in this incredible journalistic project here. So Sky, you also have you are a woman, you're the Renaissance woman for me. You have your own fitness studio in Montpelier. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I know I'm speaking to a fellow Renaissance woman, so that means a lot. Thank you. So Alpenglow Fitness is my other life, and I started Alpenglow in 2018. I purchased an existing fitness studio, and that originally a woman named Amy Leventhal founded, who's been a wonderful mentor of mine. And kind of along the same lines, I wanted to create a third place, somewhere where folks felt included, and an inclusive space where we say we're just here for here for the experience and to feel good, not for measurements. It's really a place where people can come and exercise in a supportive environment. And life is hard, and it's a fun hour with really loud music and dark lights and black lights, and it's just a chance to let go of some stress, to work some things out. I love people come through the door after work, and you can tell everybody's kind of like this, and they leave and they're like this, and I just love seeing that.
You're opening their heart chakras. Well, so Alpenglow in Montpelier. Well, I'd love to see you move one a little bit further north for people like me,
Yeah,
who don't live near Montpelier, but you're also a yoga teacher.
yeah, yeah.
I would love to. I need to sign up just to come and do
Oh, I would love
your yoga
that.
class. I would love. I'll have
Love
to get
that.
online. What's the website for Alpenglow?
That's alpenglowfitness.com.
All right, okay.
ALPENGLOW fitness.com.
Thank you for that. So, Sky, your former communication professor at Castleton College, Bob Gershon, stated that your heart is always in the right place. And I've met with
Always.
you, I've had lunch with you, I've gotten to know you, and that is so, so true. Another professor, Tom Conroy, highlighted your generosity. Talk to us a little bit about that. About how you were able to create those kind of accolades at your alma mater, Castleton College. Talk to us a little bit about that. I think it was reaching out to other students. And what is it that you did to receive those kind of accolades from these folks?
I have to just say, like, I think that's something I learned from my mother. She's an incredibly generous soul and is always thinking about other people. Um, you know, she, I, I've seen her at times when she really had nothing, like, still like give, financially or her time or bake cookies. Like, she's always thinking about other people. And it's something I wish I actually did more of. When I see like how much she does, I'm always in awe. But um I don't know. I just think, like, we get one life, and how do you want to live it? And for me, I derive a lot of joy from being in service to other people. And I think that's kind of what makes life worth living.
And now as the head of Vermont Digger, you can see that in this news source too, that you put your heart and soul into it, and you're a kind and loving person. And I'm so glad to know you. You left Vermont to work at the Nation in New York. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal to be, I mean, the Nation is such an incredible news source. But after meeting your husband, just a week before you moved to New York, you returned to Vermont after eloping on a bike ride that you took with your fiance from Amsterdam to Paris. Talk to us just a few seconds about that.
Sure.
Great
Yeah. So
story.
I met Brian the week before I was moving to New York City, and it was like a rom-com. It was like, oh, the timing, of course, now. But I always wanted to live in New York, and it was something I just had to do. I had this incredible opportunity to work at the Nation, and gosh, that was like, it still feels like a movie sometimes. Like, it was just so cool. It was so fun. The work was really, the level at which the Nation operates taught me so much. Just living in New York and having access to food and theater and the arts was very cool. So yeah, so I met Brian. We long distance dated for a year and a half. He is a uh, hardcore skier. There was no way he was going to move to the Upper West Side. So, so I came back, and I'm very glad that I did. And yeah, so we dated for a few years, and then we decided to get married. We found this bike tour from Amsterdam to Paris. We spent, I don't know, I think 10 days on our bikes. And then it was technically a planned elopement. We used this company called, it was like Do It Paris Way. And it was this team. They had like somebody who did your hair, a beautiful photographer, and an officiant. And they set you up in front of the Eiffel Tower and then took you around and did a photo shoot. And again, it just felt like a movie. It was so fun. Highly recommended.
The picture is phenomenal that I
Oh, thank
saw of
you.
you. I mean,
Thank
just the
you.
most gorgeous picture of you and your husband, I believe, in front of the Eiffel Tower. So your past professors at Castleton, like we spoke of, have stated that you elevated the entire legacy of Castleton and every Castleton graduate. And I want to add that you have elevated all of us in Vermont with your dedication and devotion to honest, fair, truthful, interesting, and insightful journalism. I want to again remind my viewers that Vermont Digger's website is vtdigger.org, and I encourage everyone to become a subscriber. Every morning I wake up and I turn on my computer and there it is. There's Vermont Digger, and I get all my news. I read the commentaries, I read the letters, and then throughout the day, I'll get notices about things that are happening that are important that I need to know. And it really is my go-to news source. And I encourage everybody to get involved and become a subscriber. So Sky, is there anything else you'd like to share with my viewers before we have to say goodbye, which is always difficult, but anything you'd like to share with my viewers?
I just want to thank you, Melinda. Like, thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for inviting me to lunch. Thank you for all that you do for Vermont. And thank you for being, an inspiration. And there are not a lot of female CEOs, and you're one of the trailblazers. And thank you for, I'm just, appreciative.
Thank you so much, Sky. And there are more and more of us.
There
And
are more and more of us.
And there's going to be more and more of us. So to my viewers, thank you for being here with me and Sky Barsch, the CEO of Vermont Digger. And I wish you all a beautiful day. It's sunny, the sky is blue. Go out and take a walk, read some poetry, listen to good music. I'll have to just try to get out of our heads a little bit. So wishing you a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.